How's it going, everybody? Tactard Ted, and I'm coming to you on the glorious day of the midterm elections. Yes, the midterm elections. And it is right now 1700 hours, 5 o'clock National Guard time for anyone watching. And, there's two takeaways from today. Number one, rampant fraud. Apparently, in Arizona, voting machines in Republican areas are malfunctioning and they're not working, but in the heavily Democrat districts, no problems. Everything working well. On camera, in a voting place, there is a man filling out one ballot, flipping up, filing out two ballots, filling out multiple ballots, being filmed. Film fraud. The guy's wearing a COVID mask, and that's so that he can get away with it. That's one of the advantages of having COVID mask. You can get away with shit. There used to be a day and time when you did not cover your face in public, but because of the COVID fraud, the COVID hysteria, it's perfectly acceptable to be in a public place with your face covered, so you can do all sorts of nefarious shit. Come on, folks. In the last couple days, if you haven't figured out what was coming, I don't believe there's much hope for you, because you even have the president saying it will be a long time before we possibly know the results to some of these races. When I was a kid, we had election day. Now it's election month. To be quite honest, we need to get rid of mail-in ballots. We need to get rid of all this fucking long fucking vote to the election. And we need to have one election day. Everybody gets off from work, and a lot of people volunteer as poll watchers and poll workers, and it needs to be bipartisan. We don't simply have everybody working at one poll be members of one party. And if there are any shenanigans where there's a water main break and everybody has to go outside, or they put up paper over the window so you can't see what the count's going on, then it simply has to be declared null and void, because the elections are no longer credible. They lack credibility. The worst part is the Democrats knew ahead of this, and Republicans knew as well. The people would be watching to see if there was any clarity, if there was going to be any legitimacy, to see if there was going to be any credibility. And what we're seeing is no. In many places, there is no credibility. Now, I had nothing at my polling place that was out of kilter, out of spec. We only had one race to vote on, and that was our House of Representative, and I voted. I held my nose and voted Republican. Because I am not particularly fond of the Republicans anymore, because the Republicans will lie to you. The Republicans won't stand up for their constituency, and they let the Democrats run over them. Plus, you have a good number of rhinos. And like I said, I held my nose and voted for the Republican because the Democrats are fucking insane. These warmongers are now possibly floating the idea of a limited nuclear exchange. They're wanting to change the rules, the laws governing use of nuclear weapons. We've always said that it would be only as a last resort after we've been nuked. We would only use nuclear weapons if we've been nuked. Now, they're wanting to change the rules so that we can use a first strike if necessary. And I mean, that's just insane shit. That's absolutely insane shit. And anybody who backs that is insane. So that was a big problem. The second takeaway is they say our votes don't count. If our votes didn't count, they wouldn't be trying so hard to steal the election. And this only enhances the fact that if you believe the greatest threat to our way of life and our democracy is in Moscow and not Washington, D.C., you have your head so far up the ass that you cannot have any idea which direction daylight is in. Because you got a president who's warning you that it'll take days to count the vote. What used to be when I was a kid was done in less than 24 hours. But no, we're behind the times. We're going backwards. We're not capable of counting votes. And if it's because of all this special elongated election we're having, then we need to get rid of that. We need to forget it. We need to forget it. We need to stop it. This bullshit of mailing out a ballot to everybody and then just having a bunch of ballots show up, that isn't how it's going to work. Either that or we're going to have to quit having a secret ballot. There is going to have to be some sort of a check that attaches a ballot to somebody so that we know when a ballot comes in that that ID has already been used and can't be used again. But that still gives the chance for, like they do out in Chicago, where they even did it in the Shenandoah Valley down around Harrisonburg. They go through a graveyard looking for recently deceased people and register them. They register them to vote, and then they go and vote on their behalf. That is all fraud, folks. We have fraudulent elections. And the fact that this administration got out ahead of it and was trying to soften expectations, and they've been trying to demonize anybody who questions the integrity of our elections, should only go to prove that they have ill intent. They have ill intent because they know what they're trying to do, and they simply don't want to be called out on it. It's incredible the lengths we go to in this country, a country that supposedly was built on the principles of freedom of speech, and yet, if you engage in your freedom of speech in a speech that somebody doesn't care to hear, they want to demonize you and bully you into silence, into submission. Don't believe me? Walk into a room and espouse that you think Ukraine is on the wrong side, that you think we're backing Ukraine is a mistake. People will come to you, they will call you all sorts of names and try to bully you into submission. I don't go for that. I will simply say my peace of mind. I have freedom of speech. I served to protect the Constitution of the United States of America one time in my life. Guess what? That freedom of shit, freedom of voice shit works both ways. All these leftist numbskulls are able to spout off their nonsense because they have freedom of speech, which veterans of this country are protected. You're not going to silence the veterans. You're not going to silence us. We have a right to say what we think, and not all veterans are monolithic. We all don't think the same way. It's interesting to see a lot of veterans. Lucas Gage, for example. Lucas Gage and I, he's a Marine Corps veteran. He's got a couple of videos out there, somewhat activist. We agree on some things. We don't agree on everything. But you know what? Even the stuff that I don't agree with Lucas, he has a right to say. He absolutely has a right to say it. Just the same as anything that Lucas may not agree with what I'm saying, he can still disagree, but I would think he would also say, well, yeah, Tactard Ted has a legitimate right to espouse that shit, even though he doesn't agree with it. So really, guys, that's what I have on the midterms. Should be interesting to watch. It's going to be ugly. It is going to be ugly because if they manage to steal this one, I don't expect anybody to be quiet. And I expect January 6th, the little protest that it was, I expect to see people really pissed off. And you won't be talking about January 6th as an insurrection. January 6th will be forgot about. And be a footnote. Because what you're going to come to in the wake of a stolen election here in the midterms is you're going to have a lot of pissed off folks running around calling it out. And, I think a lot of folks have been counting on a lot of people just being submissive and not coming to blows over. We're Americans. We don't do that. Well, yeah, we've done that. We've done that a couple of times in our history. I remember we did that in the 1770s, and we also did it again in the 1860s. So, voicing your opinion, letting everybody know that that's not necessarily the way you want to see things progress. That's very American. And anybody who says it isn't does not seem to have a real good grasp of who we are. Anyhow, that's what I got on the midterms. Y'all take care. We'll see what tomorrow brings.